All right, here we go. Good morning, everybody. It is December 11th, 2022. We have 20 something odd days left of December. Less than that, right? No, 31st. 19 plus 11 is what? 1 plus 9 is 0. Carry the 3. No, so we have literally 20 days left from December 11th. We are here in the stock market open. Let me just tweet out that I am live and that we are doing this. I had a pretty unique weekend that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But we are here. Stock market live open. Let me know how your weekend was. Would definitely like to know how things are for everybody. Feels like it's been a while since we talked, even though I did a podcast literally last night and 2 podcasts on Saturday night. But, it kind of feels like that. Let me just say live morning open on the Discord. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Okay. Richard, Ken, Miyoko, Damien. I have a man cold. It's brutal. Bro, everyone is getting sick. Ahad, Paul, Kevin, Philip, Richard, Mark. What's up? What's up? Yes, like my mom got COVID. A couple of my friends are sick. Like everyone's just getting sick. Good show last night. Thank you, Troy. I appreciate you checking it out. Okay, so before I get into stock market open, I kind of want to get something off my chest and just say this for the 42 people that are here right now. Kind of just doesn't feel right to. Oh, it's December 12th, not December 11th. Thought it was December 11th. Doesn't feel right to start the stock market open without acknowledging this. I was with my grandpa all weekend, and he unfortunately passed away yesterday. I was the only one with him in the hospital for the last 5 hours of his life. He was in a lot of pain. He died pretty peacefully. He had dementia. Liver was failing. Kidney was failing. So at one point, my dad stayed with him the night before. My dad couldn't stay in the morning, so I stayed with him so my dad could go to work. And he peacefully passed away in his sleep. So Grandpa did pass. I spent a lot of time with him in my life, so I think I spent a decent amount of time with him. We spent the last couple of years taking care of him, but he was getting to the point where he kind of just wanted to get out of the pain, and his body kind of gave up as well. So I want to give a very big shout out to my grandpa. He never watched these. He doesn't know what YouTube is. He has no idea what I'm actually doing in life. At the past 2 years of his life, he was basically out of it. Like he ran away from our house once in like February and literally ended up in some random place, and we had to go find him. Like he was losing his life, his mind, his perception, everything. And yesterday he officially lost. So thank you everybody for your well wishes. I appreciate that. And now we got to move on because life moves on at the end of the day. And you got to keep going. All right, so here we go. Yeah. Yeah, you should get something off of your chest. That shirt. That's a good way to transition this. This shirt I think is actually very cool. Okay, this is a pretty dope shirt in my opinion. I wore this shirt on multiple dates when I was little. Like I think 2015, I remember wearing this shirt. Like the thing about me, man, I don't give a fuck about clothes. Like I really could care less about clothes. I wear the same shit over and over. I do not care. Like if I ever get rich, I don't know if I'll be able to buy like designer clothes because literally I some shit from Amazon and I'm good to go. Like I really don't care. But that's just kind of how I am. All right, into the market. S&P 394. S&P is up a little bit. For those saying the S&P going all the way down to 340, maybe 2023, but not now. We're having a little bit of a Santa rally, not a rally, but it's not like being destroyed in pre-market as we saw last week. But even last week, right, when the S&P went from 408 to 394, we were stuck in 391 to 397 for the better part of a month. So it's not like the crash or last week's crash was anything different from what we've been seeing over the past month. Meta at 115, Apple at 142, Microsoft 245, Google 93. All of these stocks staying relatively the same, up or down 1%, maybe if that even. So those stocks being relatively the same. SoFi at 4.3, Target 152, Roku 51. Nothing that changed in the pre-market. Tesla 177. Now Tesla Elon Musk said some things over the weekend, and the things he said were rather inflammatory towards different populations and different groups of people. We'll let my SPY covered calls expire and then wait until Thursday before writing again. Hey, Amit, what does it mean when your company gets listed in the NASDAQ 100? Is that good? Does that mean, I don't know if Palantir's in the NASDAQ 100. I think it's kind of like the S&P 500, right? If you are a big enough company, you get included into this index. And the good thing about being part of the S&P 500 is that now if you're a fund manager and you own part of the S&P 500, you indirectly have to have exposure to a company like a Tesla that's in the S&P 500 or something like that, right? And as a result of having exposure, you have to buy more of that stock. So the benefit of being in one of these major ETFs is that fund managers have to own your stock, which, you know, obviously means more people buy the shares of the stock and you get more ownership. But outside of that, I don't think there's any, and you get more publicity from being in it. But, you know, that's pretty much it. Thank you, Mr. Flo, to the super chat for €2. I appreciate you. Happy to be able to join you live. Great to chat. Thank you so much for being here. It means the absolute world for you guys to join me on a Monday morning. It means a lot. So overall, Elon Musk tweeted some things this weekend. At the end of the day, look, he said, my pronouns are prosecute Fauci, and making a dig at transgender people that have a particular way they want to impose their pronouns. And look, whether or not you agree with Fauci or pronouns or whatever, at the end of the day, it's really interesting why Elon is choosing to go this route. I got to say, I don't really like it. I'm not a fan of it. Now, granted, my opinion doesn't matter too much, but I think he's trying to be Trump on Twitter without being Trump on Twitter. And it's interesting. Like, I like the Twitter files. I like that he's exposing stuff. I like that he's pulling out corruption, all this stuff. But being like explicitly inflammatory to a group of people, regardless of whether you believe in them or not, is basically saying you don't want them on the platform. Like, you don't care about them, right? At some level, that's how people are going to take it. And, you know, at the end of the day, look, he's a billionaire. He can do whatever he wants. But the reason Twitter was popping for the past 4 years before Trump left is because Trump really gave you something to go to Twitter to check out. Like, at the end of the day, we have to remember Twitter is a social media site that if you don't have content that's interesting to check on it, people are just not going to care about it. So at the end of the day, Elon, you know, I think he's playing this role. Like, I don't know how serious he is about this stuff. I really think he's trying to make Twitter interesting. And it's hard to, you know, what's the best way to make Twitter interesting? You get every single media website to write something about your tweet, forcing people to go to Twitter to check out that tweet. It's not a bad strategy at all. Because he was never like this. Like, he was never like this guy that was just like mean to groups of people. Because at the end of the day, you can say it's free speech or not. It's pretty mean. Like, it's a mean thing to say to a lot of transgender and gay people who are seeing this stuff that, like, they're not going to feel happy towards it. Let's just say that. So it's at some level, you're picking a little bit of a war with certain groups of people. And if one group of people has more people in that group, like hard right conservatives, he might be just targeting that group at the end of the day, because a lot of left people already use Twitter and maybe conservatives don't. You know, that could be a pretty reasonable way to assume what he's doing. But he could also be doing some other stuff. Elon's not putting down LGBTs, criticizing the Vine culture, big difference. I agree with you. I'm not saying he's putting them down. I'm saying that indirectly they will assume that he's putting them down. So you have to also take into sense context, guys. You can't agree with Elon on everything. You have to take into sense context. If you're an LGBTQ person, how do you perceive those tweets that are going on right now? That's my question to think about. It's not a question of if Elon is right or wrong, or if you think he's exposing. How do you perceive that? Perception is reality. And if those people are perceiving this as an attack on them, even if it's not, right? Like, again, even if it's not, what is the perception of that? That is the fundamental question here. And so if they're perceiving it as an attack on them, they, you know, again, my point is, I think Elon at the end of the day is trying to stir up a lot of controversy for Twitter, which he's doing a good job of. And as a result of doing that, he's going to get a lot of attention, which is good for Twitter. It's just the question, at what cost is he doing it? So that is it. Opinions and feelings, no place for that. Well, Twitter is a place of opinions and feelings, and Twitter has a lot of people giving a lot of opinions and feelings. So I don't know. Look, at the end of the day, it's not about being a softie. It's about recognizing different perceptions to reality. It's about looking at different contexts. And if we can't look at different contexts, we're not going to see the overall picture. 9:30 a.m., December 12th. Here we go. The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. Let's see what's going on in the stock market. S&P to 394, AMD to 68, Carvana 512 is actually up a little bit from 340 on its lows. Babylon Health 47 cents. Palantir, $7.13. CrowdStrike at 115. Ginkgo Bioworks, where was that one? I just saw it. This was, I think it's the wrong one, but it's at 170. Alibaba, 89. And Tesla, 176. So Tesla's down 1.45% on what Elon was tweeting. Let's see if Tesla goes up. Let's see if Tesla is able to. Elon isn't good at sensitivity. That is very true. Elon does not give a fuck about sensitivity. And that's what also makes him a really good leader at the end of the day, right? Elon, like, not giving a fuck and like firing half of Twitter, or more than half of Twitter, and making Tesla go from literally being bankrupt. Like, that's the one thing around people that build things. They don't care about the, for example, pronouns or sensitivity stuff around cultures that are more collectivist in nature. When you're an individualist, when you're a guy who took a company that was going bankrupt and turned it into $1 trillion company, you kind of feel like you've deserved a little bit of credit for your thoughts and viewpoints. Even if other groups may not agree with them, you're going to express them because, motherfucker, you took nothing and you built it into something. And so that is where you get most people who are big. They care less about sensitivity. They care less about excuses. They care more about progress and getting things done. And at the end of the day, Elon's trying to get Twitter to become big. He was also, apparently he was with Dave Chappelle over the weekend. Elon Musk, Dave Chappelle, and he got booed at the at a place at Coinbase. Coinbase is at the bottom. It's there. Elon didn't do anything wrong if you don't care about people buying Teslas. Well, that is also true. He gets a lot more people to buy Teslas. Here we go. Glitch Life, resident trans person here. LGBTQ, not really a big deal, to be honest. It's okay to satire. Comedy is a thing. Elon was on Rogan that night. He is criticizing left media censorship. Wait, he was on Rogan? Elon is on Rogan? Or are you talking about Elon was on Rogan in the past? But yeah, I agree. He's definitely criticizing left media censorship. My point is just there's a lot of people that are going to perceive that as not how you perceived it, Glitch Life, which is a little bit more rational, logical, even though you are trans. They're going to perceive it as an attack. And I think the thing I'm trying to get here is I think Elon doesn't care. I think he's okay with that. I think he's like, all right, if you think I'm attacking you, even though I'm not, go ahead and think that. But at the end of the day, don't like spread a lot of the, what he calls woke mind virus all on Twitter. I think that's his point at the end of the day. And as a result of that, that's kind of how he's playing this whole thing. Again, I think at the end of the day, he's trying to save Twitter, and the more stuff you can get on Twitter, the better. And he's trying to get people to really check out Twitter. Elon Musk is booed during surprise appearance at Dave Chappelle's show. Dave Chappelle said, it sounds like some of the people you were fired are in the audience. So apparently Dave Chappelle was performing at the Chase Center. This is where the Warriors play. 18,000 people, and 80% of them were booing. Wow. Dave gave him so many chances to speak, but he just put his hands in his pockets. I actually felt bad for him. I'm by no means an Elon fanboy, more a centrist. I want to shake for him. For the love of God, man, say something and pretend it's a tweet. Wow. This is so... Oh, Musk. Oh, did Musk respond? Yeah. Oh, here we go. This was Elon's response. This is crazy that this happened last night, bro. He's also pushing the free speech boundary on Twitter himself. Yes, he is. That is also true. That is also true. Here we go. So this was Elon's response. Someone said, so does a crowd full of boos. He said, technically it was 90% cheers and 10% boos, except during quiet periods. But still, that's a lot of boos, which is a first for me in real life, frequent to Twitter. It's almost as if I've offended San Francisco's unhinged leftists, but nah. See, he doesn't care, bro. I think he's getting to the point where he does not care. He's like, at this point, I don't give a shit what you guys think about me. He's like, I'm going to try to do good things in the world. I'm going to try to encourage free speech. I'm going to try to make people actually care about discourse and shit. And he does not care what people think. I mean, think about getting booed in public, man. That's a hard thing to deal with. No one wants to get booed in public. That sucks. Like, that hurts, getting booed in public. But I think he's at the point where he's basically getting booed on Twitter by half the platform and then cheered on Twitter by half the platform. So he really doesn't care at the end of the day. Bro, I can't wait to watch that. Was he actually on Rogan? Hold on. I'm about to look into Spotify. Was he actually on Rogan? Because if he did, that's a big episode. Oh, I think he was. Was he? Was he? No, he wasn't. He wasn't on Rogan. Or maybe that episode didn't come out yet. That might be an old episode. Yeah, he wasn't on Rogan yet. Yeah, if he goes on Rogan, going on Rogan would be a good. Oh, filmed a new episode over the weekend. It's not live, but there are a few clips out. A few other comedians were there as well. Gotcha. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. That's so weird. I don't know why that happened. I don't know why that happened. That's very weird. I hope not everybody left. I should be good. Hopefully. That was so weird. I just clicked on it and it was a black screen. I was like, okay, that's fine. All right. So let's move on to some of the other things that are going on. We obviously have CPI data coming out very soon, coming out tomorrow. So CPI data is going to determine a lot of things. Experts are calling for inflation to be somewhere around 7.3. On the low end, we might get 7.1, 7.0. If we get 6.9, it's a wrap. Like the world is it's going to be crazy. I think whatever rally we get on CPI data tomorrow is likely going to be short-lived, and it's going to be something where you probably don't want to buy into because it's really a scary time to imagine that buying the dip in this market is a good idea, particularly on like 6.9 or 7.3 inflation, right? Why did the CPA get changed to tomorrow? It was always going to be tomorrow. It's always on the Tuesday of every month. Let me show you guys a tweet about Puru. It does matter what JPOW says. Yes, JPOW's meeting is on Wednesday, even though the CPI is on Tuesday. Here's what Puru said to get a little bit of context on some of his tweets around the S&P. I don't know if he deleted it. This is a pretty unique tweet. Oh no, I think he I don't know where it is. Oh, I was looking at it last night, but basically said the next leg down to the S&P is 3,000. That's more the level you're looking at, and the reason for that is because if you give an earnings per share, I don't know where it is right now. If you give the S&P an earnings per share of about $175, and you give it a 15 times multiple, which is what it's supposed to be historically, 14 to 15 times. Right now, it's around 18 times. Then you've got the S&P trading at around 3,000 by 2023, which is, a good 15 to 20% down from here. And so that is what we're looking at for the S&P. Now, granted, if inflation goes down, the question is, can we keep the multiples on the S&P the way they are right now? And that is the hard question, right? So, like, let's say tomorrow inflation comes out at 7.1. S&P right now still trading at an 18 times earning at 399. If earnings and Facebook and Google and big tech, I think will actually have a good Q4 because Black Friday and Cyber Monday was amazing. And I think that is one of the biggest telltales that a lot of advertisers still use their products. A lot of people bought stuff on Amazon. Maybe they don't hit it out of the park, but they definitely don't have, Facebook guiding for 32 billion of revenue. Maybe they actually hit 32 billion and they don't hit 35 billion, or they don't hit 29 billion. So if they hit right where they need to hit, they put up the numbers. The earning multiple technically doesn't have to decompress, even though it could decompress. And then it's just a question of how the market sentiment feels around inflation. Coinbase right now at $40.29. Some of you guys are saying to check out Coinbase. Quarantine Quartet, thank you for being here. Good day, everyone. DRK, happy for being here. Marco, thank you for saying sorry for your loss. I appreciate it. Coinbase, again, is interesting. As I've said, that if they survive the crypto winter, they're going to be one of the best regulated exchanges that exists. Trading at a price to sales of 1.8. I think they did $3 billion in revenue last year, a little bit more than that potentially, and they're at a $9 billion market cap. Coinbase it's an interesting one. Obviously, it's fallen from grace at 429. I can't believe it was 429 on April 2021. That's crazy. It's fallen 10 times down from that at $40. I'm not long Coinbase because I don't really care about crypto. Like, it's one of those things like I could care less about. So mentally, emotionally, it's hard for me to be invested into if I don't care about crypto, which is one of the things I've learned as an investor. It's like, if you care about the thing you're investing in it becomes so much easier. If you don't care about it, well, it's really, really difficult to actually want to buy the stock, right? It's it's not exciting to buy that stock. So at the end of the day, Coinbase is not something that I'm super excited about. There's so many other opportunities out there, like Palantir, for example, and those things get me a little bit more excited. Amit wants the state to continue to control the money. Yes. I want the governments to dictate our lives. No, I'm like, look, I think the ultra anarchist perspective from people who like crypto is honestly full of shit. I'll say that with zero regret or remorse. Like, the government is good in certain instances, especially, like, for example, I was listening to a socialist yesterday talk about the Fed, and they were saying in Richard Nixon's administration, when we dealt with inflation, or FDR's administration, when we dealt with inflation, we didn't raise interest rates. So they were criticizing the Fed for raising interest rates. And the argument was that we should do wage price freezes, or consumer staple price freezes, or rationing. They said all these, like, quote unquote socialist ideals on how to deal with a recession versus raising interest rates, because the effect of raising interest rates is that people lose their job. And the socialists obviously didn't want people to lose their job. Now, obviously, those strategies are incredibly outdated and stupid. And so the capitalist that he was debating, it was actually a really good debate. It was with Richard Wolff and Glenn, I believe is his name. And the capitalist was like, you're an idiot. And like, that stuff doesn't work. And that we need the Fed. So you've got a capitalist arguing for why the Fed and the Federal Reserve and actually being able to control interest rates and inflation and printing money is a good thing, right? And so getting rid of the Fed and arguing that we should not have a Federal Reserve because we should have crypto and like we should have an anarchy is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard of in my life. Like, it's a stupid idea. Like, getting rid of the Fed is, if you believe we should get rid of the Fed, I think you're literally living in a fantasy world. It does not make sense. The Fed is important. Now, we may not like what the Fed does. By the way, the Fed didn't print those trillions of dollars. We, the voters, asked Congress to print those trillions of dollars, and Congress voted on printing trillions of dollars. Like, you got to remember, the Fed only does what the Congress wants them to do. When things get out of hand, then they have to decide if they should raise interest rates, etc. But they didn't decide, hey, we should print 7 trillion. Like, people said we want stimulus checks, which is an individual accountable thing that we have to recognize. But if we got rid of the Fed and we just let the markets deal with inflation, you don't deal with inflation, because why would the markets ever like want interest rates to go high, right? Why would businesses want to stop growing? Why would they want the cost of capital to go? These are subjective things that we have to artificially induce in our economy in order to make sure the economy is stable, which is why we're not Turkey, which is why we don't have 80% inflation, right? So how is it a good thing? It's a good thing because eventually the Fed will decrease inflation over time, because we will have interest rates that are high. It just takes time for that to happen. We started off with a small anarchist community, but no one would follow the rules. That's the other thing, man. If you have an anarchist community, like, who's going to, at some level, the hierarchies are good because no one wants to take the blame. People naturally want to have leaders. That's why people have cults, right? So it's a hard thing for me to be super anti-government and be super bull crypto, because it's like, no. Amit, are you still holding your DNA positions? No, I sold out DNA at 292. I said this publicly back in October. I knew that the macro was going to hurt all biotechs, so I sold out of it at the time. Okay, let's get into the talking heads and see what they are talking about as well, and keep going from there. Let's look a little bit at some of the Sam Bankman-Fried stuff. He is testing
the currency
Congress soon.
CEO of FTX, John Ray, and ousted CEO Sam Bankman-Fried are expected to testify in front of the House tomorrow. Joining us is Jay Clayton, former SEC chairman and a CNBC contributor. He's also non-executive chair of Apollo and an American Express board member. You saw Andrew's interview of Bankman-Fried and he gave other interviews. Is this going to be different when he's testifying actually before Congress? Will there be more I don't recalls instead of more I didn't didn't know I was doing anything wrong? I mean, he's got to tell the absolute truth now, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think there'll be more of the same, but then there'll be more, Joe. There's a lot going on in these congressional hearings. People will be trying to get to the bottom of what happened. Did it happen because it was offshore? Would it have happened in the U.S.? But then there's a lot of other things. I mean, members of Congress are not constrained in what they're able to ask.
It was Andrew. Were you, Andrew? I don't think you were concerned.
Nope.
But If someone says, "Did you knowingly commingle customer funds with Alameda?" What did he say to you when you asked him that? He's like, "Oh, it was like nebulous the way it." Doesn't he have to give a more?
He didn't give a. If we didn't get to a yes or no.
That's what I
He
mean.
never
So does he
intended
do it? I don't recall now. What does he do? I know people do. I don't recall again and again and again.
Like I think one of the reasons this is going to be so interesting and why we're talking about today is we will see. We'll see how he handles those questions under that kind of pressure. One of the things that makes you a good witness in front of Congress is whether you're coming off as authentic or not. And that is actually a very important part of preparing for these types of hearings.
If he perjures himself in front of them, what happens?
Well, I mean, perjury is perjury, and you're not.
That's why I don't recall. It's going to be more than no, I didn't do anything.
I am sure that he is preparing
How do you think
thoroughly and going through a fair amount of what is referred to as murder boarding, Q&A. What how would you respond to this? That's a big part of preparing for a hearing like this.
Can you talk about the distinction between civil negligence and criminality?
This is a good question, because if Congress thinks that all he did was like not know anything versus if he had a malicious intent, that is going to determine a lot about his sentencing.
In the context of what we think has happened here?
Well, look, the interesting part about the law is it's very complicated around someone's mental state. Is your mental state just lack of paying attention? That's I would say the vernacular way to say negligence. Is it you had an obligation to pay attention? There were all sorts of signs that you should be paying attention and you ignored them, recklessness? Or do you have some kind of intent that you were like, for example, I need that money. It's not my money,
Premeditated.
but I'm going to consciously transfer it to my account. Those levels go to level of culpability, different responsibilities at law. I mean, we actually have an amazingly flexible and nuanced legal system around situations
From what
like
you've
this.
seen thus far, may be unfair to prejudge given that we don't have all the facts. What do you think?
Look, I think there was obviously a great deal of bad behavior here that we would think was bad behavior from our perspective as to how you run a financial institution in the United States, but also from a general perspective in how you handle any business.
But what about the idea that some of these laws that we have here around securities and all sorts of other things that might otherwise, things that maybe happened would have constituted fraud or worse here, wouldn't there?
Well, let me say this. We have an incredibly well-developed and rigorous legal system around securities markets, securities issuance, securities trading, all of those things. But its basis is in the common law. And outside the United States, there is still a fair amount of common law built around fraud and the like. What does our securities law system do? It creates processes, requirements, transparency, inspection that makes it much easier to detect fraud and prevent fraud. So, it's not, I'm not saying that around the world fraudulent activity isn't policed. We just have what I would say is an incredibly rigorous system for deterring it, detecting it, and when it exists, punishing it.
Yes or no? Do you guys think that he goes to jail? The more I think about it, bro, the more he finds a way to explain that it was just pure civil negligence or a mistake, the more I think he finds a way out. This is a guy who's been protected by a lot of people, including mainstream media, his parents. I mean, the guy's not even in jail yet. I mean, like, testifying, and it's taken a month to get him to testify in front of Congress, more than a month since this happened. I don't know, man. I have a funny feeling that this guy finds a way out. There might be a world in which he finds. Is this why he made sure to do the crap in Bahamas? Yep. Bahamas has very little regulations around crypto, and he probably knew that he didn't want to. It just sucks because when Sequoia and BlackRock and the biggest financial institutions of the world are co-signing this, Tom Brady, etc., it makes regulators not feel like it's a big issue as well. Regulators don't want to mess with, companies that are doing big things, because those companies are going to create jobs, money, tax revenue, all that stuff, right? So they kind of, if everyone else says the company's good, they don't want to think like it's horrible either. And so it's sad because regulators probably should have seen the excessive amounts of marketing they were doing, and maybe that raised a red flag. But that's the other thing. We'll even go to real jail. Elizabeth Holmes, who created the Theranos fraud, got sent to like a country club jail. If you actually look up the jail that she's going to, it's not. She's there for like 10 years or something. It's not the worst jail ever. Let's just say that. So we're gonna see what happens at the end of the day, man. We're gonna see what happens. I've seen the most recent at CoffeeZilla's in it. Yeah, I've heard a little bit about it. CoffeeZilla basically got him to admit that he was commingling customer funds, which is crazy because like the guy's admitted it. The thing is, he's just admitted it with a certain degree of like, I think like the dude says 17,000 times. I'm like, bro, you're not stupid, bro. You went to MIT. You're fucking trading billions of dollars. Like, you don't need to be saying between every second. Like, you don't know what to say because you don't want to say some horrible admission of guilt at the end of the day. And that's kind of the main issue going on with it. So we are going to see. We are going to see what's happening. Let's look at this. Congress still trying for a sweeping deal to avoid a government shutdown. I feel like every year we have to somehow avoid or try to avoid a government shutdown. Let's see this.
Now with the latest, and Elon, we've heard about this in the past, these deals where we're coming up against government funding falling apart. I think at this point, we're just conditioned to think that this deal is going to get done. Are we wrong to think that?
Yeah, well, there's still a lot of hope, Becky, even though the top line spending number is still in flux. Now, we know the number will likely come in over $1.5 trillion. But at the end of last week, the two sides were still roughly $25 billion apart. A Senate Democratic aide told me last night that negotiators did make progress over the weekend and that the senator leading these talks, Patrick Leahy of Vermont, is holding off on releasing his own version of a spending bill today in hopes of reaching that bipartisan deal. Now, an agreement would need at least 10 GOP senators on board, but half a dozen Republicans have already come out against any deal brokered during this lame duck session. They want to wait to negotiate in the next Congress when Republicans take control of the House. In a recent letter to Senate leadership, they wrote, quote, "For the Senate to ram through a so-called omnibus bill would utterly disempower the new Republican House from enacting our shared priorities." Now, House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy, who could become Speaker, is also against passing a comprehensive spending bill right now. Guys, there is talk of just doing a stopgap measure that would keep the government open but flatline spending. The problem is no one can agree on how long it should last. So, Becky, even though we've seen time and again lawmakers come up to the deadline and get something passed, we've also seen government shutdowns happen too frequently as well.
What do you think the most likely scenario is? That last case that you laid out, just this idea that they kind of kicked the can down the road?
Yeah, I think they need more time, quite frankly. So right now, the deadline is Friday at midnight. You know, there's still another week before you get to the real deadline, which is Christmas, and everyone wants to be home with their families. So it seems likely that whatever scenario happens, even if they do get that full comprehensive spending deal going, that they would need at least one more week to kind of put it together and to get it passed through both chambers of Congress. So it seems likely they're going to need at least one more week. Beyond that, if they can actually come together and reach that full year deal, that remains to be seen. A 1 year stopgap funding measure seems unlikely at this point, but that's what Democrats say their plan B is, at least for now.
So I guess we're going to be talking about this at least for the near future for quite.
Government shutdowns are so interesting, bro. Like, if the government can't come to an agreement, they just shut down the whole. But like it doesn't last, right? They'd like end up figuring out how they're going to do their funding. But it's interesting to kind of see how it ultimately plays out every year at the end of the year, because it always happens at the end of the year. Let's go back into the markets. Microsoft is up. Oh wow, companies are up. Tesla's down. Look at this. Tesla's down 3.4%. So the market's not happy with some of the Elon stuff. But outside of that, S&P up, Coinbase is up, Snapchat is up, Meta's down. Interesting that Meta's down. Microsoft up, Google up, Rocket Labs up, Black Sky up, Palantir up a little bit. I made a decision that I'm going to be buying Meta. I will be buying Meta. The reason I'm hesitating is because I opened a new Fidelity account. So I'm definitely buying it on that Fidelity account because I have a new podcast called The Finance Junkies, if you guys don't know. And me, Chris, Carlos and Vitali are doing like a public challenge where we track our investments over the next couple of years. And so I'm definitely going to be buying it on that Fidelity account, and that will be made public as soon as that's done. And then on my personal portfolio, I'm also thinking of buying Meta. I see Meta as an easy double within the next 2 to 3 years. Relatively easy. And it has nothing to do with the metaverse. I think I've laid out my thesis a bunch of times. I'll probably do a video on it. But the ads business to me is growing. WhatsApp monetization is phenomenal. At the end of the day, 3.7 billion people use it, and they're not going to stop using it. And so that's the thesis for Meta. It's the same thesis I had when I wanted to buy it at 300, when I bought it at 300 and then I sold at 250. Like it's the same thesis at the end of the day. The thesis has only gotten better because the stock price has gotten lower and CapEx is going down and more people are even using it with more engagement. So Meta is definitely an interesting one to look at. Martin Skelly is out of live prison. Yeah, Martin Skelly actually makes a ton of videos, and he was talking about Meta as an easy double. I was listening to a little bit of it. He was like, Meta is like the easiest stock in the world to get to 200. But yeah, he's been out of prison for a couple of years. You said you only buy companies you are interested in. What makes you interested about Meta? Just WhatsApp? No, what makes me interested about Meta, honestly, and so I have a startup myself, right? And it's in the content space. So I and people who are friends of the channel, they know how deeply I think about content consumption, content distribution, and content discovery at scale, because the success of my startup depends on me having a particular nuanced view on this and executing against that view. And my vision is over the next 10 years, the platforms that create discovery mechanisms for content creators will win. Like if you create an app and people find an audience through your app becomes the biggest app in the world. And that's what happened with TikTok, right? And very few apps have been able to do this, but the apps that have an emphasis on discovery, and if you listen to the TikTok founder speak in 2016, 2017, literally the only thing he cared about was how do we get more people likes, followers, and views, because selfishly, they will keep coming back to the platform. The thing that makes me excited about Meta is, and let's open up the stock, they have 3.7 billion people using it, and I believe they are a framework for content discovery at scale. That is the bull case on Meta. It's very important to understand that. Like, why do you invest in a company like Meta? Because they have 3.7 billion people and all of them are producing content, and all of those people, or not all of them, but like a lot of them are. And the people that are producing content are using them as a gateway to reach an audience, which means on the back end of that, the advertising infrastructure that they are able to build via the data moat that they have, and then the pure reach and targeting that they give to advertisers is just, it's almost non-replicatable on any other platform. Snapchat ads suck, TikTok ads or whatever. It's just not as big as Facebook and Meta. Google ads are great, but Google relies on search, and search is not friendly to a lot of small advertisers that are never going to compete with, Chipotle for the word guacamole, right? Like that's just never going to happen. So I think of Meta, and this is, I made a thesis on this a while ago on YouTube. I'm going to see if I can find that video. It was the same thesis I had back in February when I was buying it, which is that they have the world's attention, and that's what gets me excited. And the financials now are ridiculous. It's trading at like a what is it trading at right now? It's trading at a 2.6 price to sales. It is out of all of FANG, it is the most undervalued, literally by the numbers. That's not subjective. By the numbers, it is more undervalued than Amazon, Netflix, all of those guys. And they have 3 points, and they print $28 billion of revenue per quarter. Like this, it's one of those companies where it's just like, you're looking at it and you're like, I think the market has got this one incorrect. And, that's sort of the thesis there. Dude, my Tesla is getting effed. So stupid. If you're a big shareholder in Tesla, I think you should be happy at this price. Like I was talking to some shareholders yesterday about Tesla, and they are pretty happy at this price. And the reason for it is because, look, at the end of the day, if you believe in the long-term thesis on Tesla, 175 is a gift. 150 is a gift. Here's the video right here. I'm finally buying Facebook stock, my newest portfolio position. 14 minutes and 27 seconds. I will put it in the description if anyone wants to watch. This is me getting excited about it when it was freaking $330. I sold out of it. I took $1,000 L. I put all that into Palantir. But look at this. I was excited about Facebook. I'm finally buying Facebook stock, my newest portfolio position. And then when it dipped, I was just like, all right, it's going to probably crash even more. So I'd rather put it into Palantir. And then I put all like the 2,500 and I put it into Palantir at 12. And then Palantir crashed. And it's just like, okay, so I'm not going to catch a break. I'm just not going to invest ever again. Forget this. This is stupid. Elon is going to kill ads. It's going to be a paid subscription model. David, I think you are incorrect about this. Elon may kill ads on Twitter, but in general, and Zuckerberg, I would encourage people to watch. Maybe I'll do a video on this. I will. Zuckerberg and Lex Fridman talked about the subscription model on their podcast, and Lex Fridman asked Zuckerberg, like, why doesn't Facebook just charge a $5 monthly subscription? And Zuckerberg's response was pretty amazing, right? It was something I had really never conceptualized before, and it makes sense. Zuckerberg's been the CEO for a long time. People don't pay for something they really don't get that much value out of. And at the end of the day, I will pay $8 a month for Twitter because I use it. I have 8,000 followers. I want to grow that to 100,000 followers one day. By the way, if you're not following me there, please follow me. That would be awesome. That would help. But most people on Twitter, they're not using Twitter to gain following and build a brand because there's not that many personal brands on Twitter out of the 350 million people that use it. There's just people that check it sometimes. Like I was talking to my friend the other day. I took her out to sushi and I was talking to her. I was like, yo, do you use Twitter every day? And she's like, yeah, I just scroll through it a little bit. She's like, but I don't tweet. And I was like, why? She's like, it's kind of like my personal diary. If I feel like saying something, I'll say something. But if not, then there's no value to me like tweeting. And that makes sense because she's not building an audience. She's not building a brand. She's not trying to become the best stocks YouTuber on the planet, right? She's just like a girl that like has a job and checks out Twitter and listens to Spotify, right? like that. So the majority of people have zero interest in paying for social media monthly because why the hell would they do that? So that's where advertising is always going to be a better model, in my opinion. Especially because it keeps it free. A lot of people in developing parts of the world don't have the banking infrastructure nor the desire to justify a $7 a month like expense. Like that's just not reasonable. And we forget that in the West because, we have excess levels of spending and income here. So Elon might kill ads on Twitter by forcing people to buy the subscription. But even then, those subscriptions, I don't think are going to make the majority of the revenue of Twitter unless a lot of people buy it. And that's the hard part. You got to get a lot of people to buy it. So Chris bought a ton of options at 90. I should have been buying at 88. I wish I came to my conclusion and my thesis when it was 80 and 90. But let's see if we get another opportunity again. We'll see. We'll get there. Now I know where you were last night. No, I was not at the dinner last night, Semrat. I was at the dinner like a week ago. Last night I was on this channel, if you were here, doing the podcast at 9 p.m. That's what I was doing. Twitter and YouTube are the only social networks I use. Yeah, think about YouTube, bro. I pay for YouTube Premium, but think about how many people don't use YouTube, or YouTube Premium. And YouTube, the ads are really annoying. You cannot tell me you like watching the ads on YouTube, but there's so many people that don't buy Premium because they can't justify the $12 a month. Now, I think it's the easiest deal in the. I was like, oh, no ads and background play. Yeah, I'm going to buy Premium. It's very simple to me. And honestly, YouTube is 99% of my consumption of content. It's not Netflix or anything like that. So it's easy for me to justify it, but people can't justify the cost, so it's hard for subscription to work. Amit, you say that they have 3.5 billion people. How many of them have money for companies to sell ads for them to buy? This is a good question. Now, the ARPU for a user in the United States and North America is, I think, 4 times higher than the ARPU, which is average revenue per user on Facebook for someone in the Middle East or in, Africa, in some of these countries and continents where there's not that much disposable income. However, that doesn't matter. What matters is that they are using the platform, because what you've got to remember is that the world is going to get better from 2 perspectives. Number one, global GDP will get stronger over time. Even if it's slow, it will get stronger, which means more and more people, look at China, right? 650 million people lifted out of poverty over the past 100 years due to free markets. Things get better. And then second of all, the internet is going to get more people online. So think about what happens when 3 billion people that are not online right now get access to the internet. What is the number one things they're going to want to do? Number one, they're going to want to consume content. Why? Because as human beings, what did we do thousands of years ago? We read books. We played with each other. We did hieroglyphics. We constantly want content. So as soon as those people get a phone and there's a nice little app there that shows them a bunch of funny videos, whether that's Instagram Reels, TikTok, YouTube, whatever it may be, let's say Facebook gets a part of that equation, that has captured their attention. So that's the first thing they're going to want to do. They're going to want to consume. Second thing, they're going to want to create. People are intrinsically creative. Even if it's just a picture of your food for dinner, people want to share. The case study of people wanting to share has been proven over the past 15 years on the internet. So they're going to want to create, they're going to want to consume. And as a result of creating and consuming in one ecosystem, which is Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, they're going to want to buy, because when they see certain things after constantly using a platform, they will be interested to check out different products and services. And so what Facebook is building is a behemoth at the level that could reach 5-6 billion people at one point, where advertisers, even if their ads aren't the best in terms of getting people to buy, they will have nowhere else to go to reach that demographic. It's why advertisers are going to TikTok, because if you're not on TikTok in terms of your brand, you are irrelevant to Gen Z. And so it's really important to recognize that overarching thesis that I think exists on Facebook. The problem is the metaverse spending is really annoying, and if they didn't have that, the stock would already be at 250. But they have that external vision. So as a shareholder, I have to deal with that, what I think is kind of stupid vision playing out, and hopefully the ads business not going away during that time. And we will see. Ad block. Never knew YouTube had ads. You know, there was an ad yesterday on YouTube to buy ad block, and I was literally like, this is insane, guys. This is ridiculous. I have YouTube Premium. I use it more than anything. Yep, exactly. That's that. I think YouTube without a premium subscription. But yeah, YouTube, like I have multiple accounts. I go on some other YouTube accounts that don't have premium, and I click on it and I see an ad, and I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. SBF speaking now. Let's see if he BS's his way to the end. Wait, where is he speaking, Miyoka? Is he speaking on is he being in Congress right now? Is he doing the thing today? Or is he on a Twitter Space? I was just looking it up. Chris said do a CPI poll, so I'll do that. So I'll do CPI below. What's the poll? Let's do below. CPI below 7.3. Above 7.3 or below 7.3? What do we got? Poll is up. I pay $16.90. Yeah, the reason you pay $16.99, David, is because I had YouTube Premium for like a year, so I got grandfathered into the $12 plan. But for some reason, they're giving new people, they're making them pay more for it. Is he on a Twitter Spaces? That's what he's at? He's at Twitter Spaces. Okay. All right. You guys want to hear some of this? Let's hear a little bit of this. Let's hear a little bit of that. We're not going to say for the whole thing, but let's hear a little bit about what he's talking about. Let's see if there's any interesting questions.
Some of those very questions. So if you don't mind, Sam, the very first question we're going to pop off with here is a simple yes or no question. On November 8th, you said customer assets were backed 1-to-1 in a tweet that's now been deleted. Was this true?
Yes, but it was the case that FTX that the sum of all customer assets was equal to balances on hand, to the best of my knowledge. But the problem is that includes negative balances for some customers. Whenever you have margin trading or futures positions on an exchange, there are going to be a lot of customers that have less than zero of something. And so what that means is that while it is the case that net customer assets were equal to net assets on the platform, net customer balances were equal to assets held on the platform, gross customer assets were not. Like if you add up all of the positive positions, that was a bigger number than any of the other numbers. And so while it is true, I think it frankly probably doesn't really address doesn't address what actually happened, and doesn't address what is probably the largest concern with a derivatives or merchant trading platform, which is customer accounts blowing out, going below zero, or being unable to meet margin call, and thus their negative balances having to be internalized by the system, or ultimately externalized by users. That's what we ran into.
Thank you, Sam. So
Okay. If you guys are interested, you can keep listening to it on Twitter, Unusual Spaces, Unusual Whales. Look, he's starting to get his story in track. He's starting to get his ideas in track of how he wants to frame this narrative. So when he testifies in front of Congress, it'll be interesting. But I don't know. There's a world in which he gets away with this. And I guess we'll see if Congress thinks it was criminal or if it was just him being negligent at the end of the day. All right. That's it for me. Unlike Amit, SBF is not legit. I appreciate that. AmitIsLegit.com. If you guys want to cop some merch, just launched it last week. I'm out. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. I have a bunch of videos coming out today, so be on the lookout for my thumbnails in your feed with my interesting faces. And I hope you click on them and check some of them out. And I will see you guys tomorrow on the Market Open. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Have a great day.